My name is Danielle Davis, and I read, write, and roller skate in Los Angeles. Welcome to this writer's life where we peek into process. This episode is called What If? And I want to explore with you the idea of using a what if question as a jumping off point for your story. So the what if question is often associated with sci-fi and fantasy stories. So for example, what if there were more robots than people? What if I had a magical power? What if time travel was possible? What if you could change something about the world that you really want to change, or change something about your life? So these are all questions that can be posed, and then what happens is a story sort of answers those what if questions. And a what if question is not limited to sci-fi and fantasy either. It can be for any kind of story as a jumping off point. So a contemporary story, realistic story, a historical story, or some blend of those with sci-fi and fantasy, or any kind of story at all. So a what if question can be a tool where you sit down and think, what if blank, and then you write a story that answers that question. Whether or not a writer has actually set out to answer a what if question with their story, oftentimes stories inevitably do answer that question. And by looking at the story, we can kind of work backwards and think, what might the what if question be for this? So I'm going to go through a few books that I love that I think answer what if questions. I'll include the titles and links to all of these books in the show notes, and that way you can check them out if you're interested, and you can see who the authors and and illustrators are. For example, Dragons in a Bag. What if you found a bag with baby dragons in it? From the Desk of Zoe Washington might answer the what if question, what if you'd never heard from your father and then on your 12th birthday you got a letter from him? More to the story might answer the question, what if there was a retelling of Little Women in modern times? The Care and Feeding of a Pet Black Hole might answer the what if question, what if a black hole followed you home? One what if question that PASHMINA answers is, what if when you put on a pashmina, you were transported to India and learned about your family history? In Pool, what if you jumped into a swimming pool and there were all of these magical creatures under the water? For The Dreamer, what if a pig wanted to fly? And finally, in Imogene's Antlers, what if you woke up with a pair of antlers on your head? So a what if question can be a great jumping off point for a story. And then I have a few other questions for you that might help to then flesh out that story and develop it. And they're questions that I think you'll be familiar with, and they are who, what, when, where, why, and how. So those questions are usually associated with nonfiction or journalism when you're trying to get the true story, and those are the way to get all the details and include them in the article or whatever it is that you're writing. But there's no reason that you can't do the same thing for fiction, a story that you're making up. You can ask those same questions and they will help you fill out the details and develop this story that you're writing. To help you do a writing activity that uses a what if question, here's what you can do. Now you can come up with your own what if question if you like. What if blank? And if you want a prompt, then I can give you one. And that is, what if you turned into a pumpkin? So I hope that that is a fun prompt for you if you want to use it. And then here's how to use those other questions that I talked about. So the first questions you can ask are who, when, and where. Who is turning into a pumpkin? Is it you and you're the main character? Or is it a main character that you're going to invent? The next question is, when does your story take place? Does it take place a long time ago, in the future, in the present, at midnight, on Halloween, first thing in the morning, like with Imogene's Antlers, when she wakes up in the morning and she has antlers on her head? When does your story take place? And then where does your story take place? Does it take place in a particular city or town, on a particular planet? Is it more specifically in a kitchen, in a pumpkin patch? Where does your story take place? The next question is what? And what I mean by that is, what happens? What happens when you turn into a pumpkin? Does it happen all at once where you wake up like Imogene and have antlers? Poof, you're a pumpkin? Or does it happen gradually, like at first you feel a stem sprouting on the top of your head or something like that? So what happens? The next question is why? Why does this happen? Why do you turn into a pumpkin? Is it something that you did or said or ate? Are other people turning into pumpkins too? Is there a villain that's casting a spell and turning you into a pumpkin? Why is this happening? That will also help you flesh out and carry through this story. And then the final question is how? And what I mean by how is, how do you cope with what's happening that you're now a pumpkin, right? How do you come up with a goal for yourself in this story? Or how does your character come up with a goal? Is the goal to help other pumpkins? Is the goal to turn back into a human? How does this story unfold, and how does it end and come to a resolution? So now it's your turn for this writing activity to write a what if question and answer it with your story. And it could be, what if you turned into a pumpkin? And then answer those other questions to help you flesh out and develop that story. There is, as usual, a PDF in the show notes that will help guide you through this as a template. Thank you so much for spending this time with me here on This Writer's Life. I hope that you'll subscribe and join me for future episodes. Parents and educators, please visit my website where you can sign up for my newsletter, and that way you'll get new episodes delivered right to your inbox, as well as the corresponding PDF if there is one.
Hi, my name is Brandy Colbert. I am the author of several novels for young adults, and my first novel for middle grade readers came out in March 2020, and it is called The Only Black Girls in Town. So one piece of useful advice I've learned during my creative process is that nothing you write is ever a waste. You know how sometimes you'll look back at something you've written and think, maybe that isn't so great, or I just need to toss that and throw it away. Next time you think that, don't do it. Try to sit on it for at least a week, even longer if you can, and then go back and reread it and see what you think. Because sometimes I've done that and I've realized, hey, it's not bad like I thought it was. Or even if it's not as great as I thought it was, it's still something that I can work on and revise to make into what I wanted it to be. And sometimes maybe it's just not right for the project that I'm working on, but I can use it for something down the line. So sometimes if you're, working on your computer, you can maybe want to keep a file of things that you think didn't work that you can go back and look at certain scenes and sentences and paragraphs. Or if you write by hand or in a journal, just try not to throw it away and see what you can do with that down the line. And just remember that no writing is ever wasted writing.